All right. Hi, and welcome, Ernie. Great to have you here, and we appreciate you as always.
Nice to be here.
All right. So just to kick it off, can you tell us a little bit about the company that you work for and your role there?
We are a manufacturer of OEM temperature sensors. What that means is that we manufacture sensors that go into original equipment. And basically, we're kind of focused on a couple of different industries, one of them being food service equipment. So anything that you would see in a commercial kitchen, cooking equipment, anything that heats or cools, we kind of chase after that application. We also do a lot of scientific instruments. Again, anything that you would see in a clinical research or an industrial lab that heats or cools, we chase after that. And then we also chase after a bunch of automation applications, which would be anything to do with kind of replacing human interaction. So there's some automation going on in the hospital field. We make sensors that go into fridges that monitor blood products, vaccines, plasma, biopharmaceuticals, all things that have to be held at temperature, and the hospitals need to be alerted if the temperatures go out of the range that they're supposed to be held at. And then we have a bunch of other specialty applications. We make sensors for pellet grills. So most of the pellet grills being made in the US, we manufacture the sensors and the meat probes that go into those grills. And that's basically what we do.
That's a lot to do.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so what, bringing all that to the board, what problem did you want to solve, and what were you looking for as a solution?
Well, again, because we kind of like those applications as a business where a piece of equipment can help out, where a human is doing repetitive actions, the same actions over and over again. And we kind of saw that was occurring in our accounts payable and our accounts receivable end of things. So again, we started exploring this because we were seeing that there were human mistakes getting made in that process when it was manually being entered. And we decided that for repetitive things, we'd like to invest in a bot to kind of take over doing those repetitive tasks and have our people actually do things that require more thought.
That's the goal. Awesome. Thank you. So how easy would you say it was to get your first bot or first automation implemented?
We started with the accounts receivable process, which was pretty straightforward. Again, because out of our manufacturing software, the bot was able to generate Excel tables. And then from there, the bot was easily able to basically print out the invoice numbers, and our system was set up to already send out emails in PDF format. So everything was kind of already in the software. It wasn't that last step where you kind of took the human interaction out, because what was happening previously was somebody was printing out the list of all the late invoices, and then they were going through with a highlighter and reprinting them. So now pretty much and actually it's not one computer, it's 5 computers that we have that's in the bot network. So basically the bot processes that, and that was implemented pretty quickly within 3 months.
Good. No, that's great to hear. Good. How effortlessly would you say the project progressed from your first bot to completion?
Well, I mean, my advice to anybody would be that you need to understand what your process flow is. Really, the programmers can get the bot to do just about anything that you want it to do. Giving unlimited time and resources, they can pretty much, any repetitive task can be taken over by the computer. But what you have to ask yourself is where you're going to get your most bang for your buck. Again, that's kind of how we've always looked at how we do business. I mean, when we're looking at issues that we may be having in production, we always come up with the top 10 list. figure out what's going to give us, what's the least amount of effort to give you the biggest return. So again, it's the same thing with the bot. You need to know what your process is. You need to look at what there's going to be certain things that are going to require human interaction. There were certain things when a human was processing it that, questions came up as far as, hey, should I pay this? They're charging us this extra fee for whatnot. So you're still going to need a human to process a certain amount of it, but almost 90% of what we're receiving as far as accounts payable items are now being processed by the computer. It's being received into an email address, and it's just automatic. It ends up in our aging report without any errors.
That's fantastic. Can you dive a little bit deeper into, critical metrics of the benefits and maybe some statistical numbers if you have any?
Well, I think what we saw in these two processes, we had a human kind of working on these items, and they were taking a little longer than what we wanted them to do. As somebody that's kind of done every job here at Probes Unlimited, at one point in time, I was processing the accounts payable invoices. So as a skilled operator, we really thought there was maybe 12 to 15 hours worth of work a week. And the job was being stretched into a 35-hour-a-week job. So we kind of wanted to free the person up to do other things because there was other things they could have been doing. So that was kind of what our philosophy was and why we kind of dove into it. We kind of felt that that by doing this, there were errors was the other issue. So basically that person that was doing that job, it was probably a net change over 2 years. That we could reallocate those funds to the person doing something different. So the net savings over 2 years was about $95,000 to $100,000, which is what the setup in the bot was. So our real return on investment was approximately, I think we had it tabbed at 21 months, I think was when we hit our break even. And now the bot's kind of running and we're looking at other things. We're looking at potential other integrations, things like sales order entry would be the next step. So again, if you think about it, if somebody else is doing 90% of the work, how much of that person's time they're going to free up to basically do higher level tasks within the business.
No, you're definitely right about that. That's the goal, is to free up humans to do more human critical work. All right. So how did you think the Nividus platform and, Nividus as a whole delivered on what you guys were looking for?
I think the first step was really quick and simple. Some of the AP things proved to be a little bit more complicated. And again, I think it was trying to express the process and then actually kind of refining the process so that we could get it to work with the computer. And I will say that some of the folks responsible for customer contact and whatnot were very good at keeping things moving along.
Oh, that's great to hear. Good. So last question here. What do you like most about the platform? And I know that you've mentioned expanding the scope. I know you're, in the throes of that. Can you go into a little bit more expanding the scope?
Again, I think that, we have to make brand new part numbers sometimes for customers. So I don't expect that the bot's going to basically receive in that new part number and be able to throw an order into the system and schedule it out. But some of the repetitive things that we've been building for 3 or 4 years, it certainly will be able to help with that. The other thing that I like about the system is that the control panel that we go into is pretty straightforward. It's easy to use. And then I like the fact that we have electronic copies. What the system actually does is it reads an email address that the invoices come to. And then on our side, we have to basically receive the goods in here and scan the packing list. The computer actually matches those two together, and then after it's processed, puts it in another folder. So when we go to do our AP, everything's electronic. I can do an ACH with 25 different items, go into those folders, and basically pull out those invoices, so everything's stored in one place. So now in the future, if somebody comes and says, hey, you forgot to pay blah blah blah, it's really easy to do a search, figure out where the payment was made, and then actually have the physical scanned copies and backup documentation that you can then send to the vendor. So I like the electronic and the organization aspect of it. And it's pretty simple and straightforward when you get into the control panel as far as launching things, looking at what's going on. You know, we do have to do some manual eyeballing here and there because it wants to make sure that it read things properly. So I think if it's below 75% certainty that it read things, you have to manual eyeball it. So I think it's a pretty all-encompassing, straightforward, simple approach to doing things. You know, I'm not a software designer or anything like that, but I find that working with the system is pretty simple and straightforward.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Very last question. I lied about the last one. Would you recommend Nivetus, and why?
Yes. I mean, would I recommend them to Chase Manhattan Bank or Chase Citigroup or anybody like that? They probably already have folks that do this, but anybody that's in that what would be considered an SME, which is a small mid-sized enterprise, I found that the pricing and I think the flexibility is much better than dealing with a larger software company. So again, I think that your target market is, you know, say that under 250 personnel, all the way down to, you know, somebody with 10 folks. So again, I think in that market, you guys execute well. I think a lot of the bigger players just aren't able to understand and customize. And again, because that's what we do, those are the kind of we're not looking for somebody who's making 500,000 fridges a year. We understand our market is, hey, under 100,000 pieces per year. So again, I think you guys have figured it out for that market, and I would highly recommend if the customer is in that range, that you guys could do a good job with that. Well, listen, it was nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you, Ernie. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Take care.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.